Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much for the introduction. So, so today I don't have any slides, like the other time. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I think I have a small Express application that will just run through together and add tests to it. So it's just like a small to-do application. So we just add tests. So say it's just build out and add test to it. I might make mistakes anyway. So, but that's the idea. We'll just so I'm going to share my screen right now, and we'll get started. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Okay. So I have this application right here. It's just like a basic application, nothing yet installed. So I'm just going to set up Express and add. So we're going to basically use. So let me read me. So basically going to use. So basically going to use Supertest for testing our APIs. We're basically going to use. Awesome. We're going to use Jest as our test runner, and the alternative will be to use vtest. But I mean, I'm used to Jest, so I'm just going to stick what I know like best. What else? Okay, I'm going to use Express. So this is like, I mean, it would same setup would basically work, same idea, same logic would basically work for any framework, any JavaScript framework you're using. So you still basically use Supertest, Jest or vtest. I mean, I use the same setup for Fastify, right? So it would basically work for the same any framework. It's just the logic and what you need to test and how you go about writing your test that matters. And then I'm going to use MongoDB. As it's just a like simple application, just a to-do application, basically. MongoDB. I think I should move this to my other screen so I can see. Oh, awesome. Yes, that's better. Okay, so I'm just going to set up the application by installing Express. Awesome. And I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it's like basic setup. Okay, so I'm going to install. I'm going to turn it into a JavaScript, a TypeScript application, no JavaScript. So, just going to bring some dependencies, and then just run the install once. Dependencies, Express is here. Okay, just going to this off. And so, I mean, at any point in time, if you have questions, you could just ask, right? So, so writing validations. So these are the dependencies we need. I'm also going to be adding dev dependencies. So that, like, things we don't need in production, just for developing purposes. I'm just going to jump this here. Definitely going to remove some of this. Just Node, Supertest. I'm not going to add ESLint. Just a simple project. And yeah. So I'm basically installing like dependencies like Supertest for running our tests with Jest as our test runner. So that's like the framework with Express.js. So I'm just going to install. Okay. Okay. I think my dependencies I copied. They have issues, so I'm going to install them manually, like one by one. Express, MongoDB, Mongo's. Okay, let me install this first. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so my dependencies are up. Yeah. And I'm going to need TypeScript. Yep, because I want to use TypeScript. So I'm just going to copy this again. I'm going to basically take out this. I don't need, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need Jest. I don't need ESLint. I'm not having ESLint. I need this. I need this TypeScript. I need this. I need type. Don't need this. I need types for Jest global. And I need this. Okay. I'm gonna try it one more thing. Fingers crossed. Okay. I think I'm probably not go with this. And then I don't need ESLint. Okay. Okay. So not good. Okay.
Yes, we have just one question. Now, I don't know if that is maybe also helpful for you. Will this super test that you are adding in the their dependencies, there is the question, will that be added as a dependency?
So this is like the
super test. Yes.
Yes, it has to be like a dev dependency because we don't want to ship the types into production. This is just like type definitions. It's not needed in production because I mean, when we run Build in production, everything's going to be converted to JavaScript. So we don't want this is like a dev dependency. We don't want it in production. So that's why it's like a dev development. So dev dependency is like development dependency, has no effect in production, right? So that's why I said dev dependency. Things was causing the issue. This just types.
Thank you.
Yeah. So then I need it because I mean I'm using TypeScript. I need the types for my Jest. So I'm gonna do first smaller version of that. Okay, I'm just gonna check and find a like much more downgraded version of Jest types that I can use. Okay. Yeah, 29. Okay. It should work 29.5.14. And I will just bring this in. Okay. Just this. Okay, let me try this version. Wait, sorry. I have two. So I have it already actually. So this is it. My bad. I was installing two different versions basically. So yeah, it's fine. Okay, yeah. So because I was installing two conflicting versions. So have that, and then I'm going to set up Jest which is like initialize TypeScript. Okay. Let's do that. I'm going to just I have my presets. So I don't need you. And this is fine. So this is just me setting up like the Express application with TypeScript, basically. Has nothing to do with our TDD. So we have Supertest, we have Express, we have Jest, we have Express, and we have MongoDB. Let me check that out. Okay, situation. Okay, we do Mongo's, and we have this memory server to help us manage our tests, closing and opening of our MongoDB. I mean, for different, if it was SQLized or if it was NoSQL or a SQLite database, it would be different. I wouldn't need this, I wouldn't need this. I say the same thing, like close your connection to your database and open data your test. So because I'm using MongoDB and Mongo's, I'm doing this. I'm using this package, Mongo's memory server to help close and open connection to my database. Yep. So I'm going to just config and I'm going to set up my database. Let's use. Okay. And I'm going to copy server. Okay. I'm going to create my variable. And I'm going to need this. This to stay there, and I'm just going I'm gonna pick a database to use. MongoDB cluster URL to use. Just gonna change this to this. Okay, I think I'm missing an installation. Yes. Okay. I'm missing this installation, and I'm just gonna install this. Sometimes that works. So no tracking. I did this already. You need to use the definition and check package JSON. It's there already. Okay, I'm just gonna hit now because I have that already. Okay. What else do we need to do to set up and get ourselves up and running? Mongoose is here, and then I need my header. Okay, just to instantiate my Express application, I'm going to also do this. I don't know if we all write Express, but I don't know. I hope majority do. Express. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, let's play this one. I fix it. Okay, so we're just creating our application. What else do we need? Yes, all of this right here and this. I'm just going to set up a check URL. Okay. Just to set up our URL and this. Okay, it's also going to add a port that our application is going to run on. So I'll do a path and I'll say get 500, or I don't know, 700. Okay. So it went very final. So we have this set up, which is good. What else? Then we need our server just to start the application. All right. So I'm going to import this. And I'm going to import that. I'm going to connect to my database. Then I'm going to start my application basically after connecting to my database. It's just basic setup, really. This. Okay. Illustration. I need the script to start my application. So it's just I need to just start it like this. Okay. And I need to check if we're good. Okay, so our application is running. We can connect to our database. Everything seems fine. So I'm going to define the requirements of the simple application that we're going to build, and which is going to just like how many routes? 4 or 5 routes. Just the basic one. I'm going to define it in the README. All right. So we need a to-do application. We need one create new to-do. Basic CRUD, get out to those. Yeah, you create and delete. So we have create, read, update, and delete. So we need like a basic CRUD application. Okay. So next thing I'm going to do is set up the Jest config for our application. So I'm going to do that before writing any application, basically. So I'm going to, I think I have everything installed. I need to double check. So I have Jest installed, which is our test runner. We have a type for that installed. What else? Yeah, we have Jest for TypeScript also. Okay. So we're going to need like one file, which is going to be jest.config.ts or JS or MTS, anyone. If it was VTest or any other test runner you were using, I mean, if you check that documentation, you'd see how to basically set it up. So yeah, I don't know if I should check that, but okay, let me see. Yeah, so in here, I'm going to define some config, and I'm going to explain the config, right? So, so the reason why I installed this is just for type inference, so I can basically get type inference because I'm using TypeScript. I should be able to get type inference. So that's why I installed just this package right here, just for type inference. If it was JavaScript, plain JavaScript, you wouldn't need this. You wouldn't need all of these types. So basically, all of these you wouldn't need them. But TypeScript, you need types. So that's why we need this, and then I'm going to just copy all of this over some config. Or we don't want auto mark, want to like define our marks, want to clear our marks. So all of these is, I don't need this basically, just keep it simple. So I want to collect coverage report. So coverage report means I want to see when running my test, I want to see what lines I've covered. It shows you, I mean, we're going to see it. It shows you what lines you are missing out on and you need to cover what, so you know, oh, this logic is not captured in my test. So that's why basically I'm collecting coverage. It's not compulsory, but it makes total sense to add coverage reports. So when you run your test, you see like, oh, I think cover this logic. I think cover this part of my code. It will show you what line to what line you haven't covered and all of that. So I always make it a point to collect coverage reports. So when I run my test, I make sure that everything is well covered. It gives you like a percentage, like 100, 90, 70, 60%, depending on the number of lines you've not covered. So I always try as much as possible to have this, except maybe yeah, I was at it basically. Also for the coverage report, I want to ignore node modules because it's like our packages are. It's not. I didn't write it. It's just like third-party packages I'm using. I don't want coverage report on this. I don't want coverage reports on my code and my functionality, right? So, like we discussed, I think last week, you don't need to test the third party what's it called modules that you've added. It's not a good practice to test it. You should believe they work, right? And that's another reason why if you're using any package at all, you need to check the test coverage for the package. You need to test you need to check, do they have tests at all? You need to check the security ratings and all of that before you add any package at all. So basically, some don't want this to test this. Also, I want to ignore the build. So when we run builds, like when you want to serve your application in production, you definitely run build. So I don't want to, track all of this, right? And then test environment is Node, the test match. This is not important basically, right? But because of the way I structure my application, I do modularized in a modularized way. So I say, okay, go into the source folder, look for anything that has .test, right? And run the test, that's like my test file. If it was that I write my code in a way that I just put all of my tests in, some people do it like this at different ways, basically. That people write their tests or structure their tests. If it was I did something like this, then this would definitely change. It would target everything in this folder, right? But because I structure my code in a modularized way, so this is what this test match does. It says, oh, okay, look for anything that is like rejects, right? Recursively, no matter how deeply nested in every folder or whatever way you've nested it, just all of my code I need you to test is in the source directory, right? Look for .test.js. I don't know this actually. It would always be .ts. It's not React. Well, so look for anything .test that ends with .ts and just run my test against it. Also, this collect coverage. Also, I'm saying same thing from .ts, but I'm ignoring some files basically. So I don't need coverage from them, like my config. Is a TypeScript file, but I don't want you to collect coverage from it because it's just my MongoDB connection, or sometimes you have like other config where you just define maybe URLs, or you define like a Redis connection or any other config for your file. That's not your main code. It's just like a config file. I don't need to like collect report for that. So I don't need like report for that. So that's why. So when this is just okay, collect coverage from everything in this directory, but ignore. There's some files in my source directly that I also wanted to ignore. So like this is also rejects. I'm just saying ignore, 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 ignore. That's what this exclamation mark means. Just ignore, 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 and just go in here. Just like some config that you can set. If you check this TypeScript definition, that's one of the reasons why I like TypeScript. You can check a lot of all the config that you can set on it, basically. I mean, and just, oh, it's not defined. I mean, if you check Jest documentation, you would basically be able to understand more. The thing adds like JS doc for all of these, which they should, which is bad. They should add JS doc for this, so that when you over on it, it would like give an explanation of what it means, but they didn't. But basically, if you want more on that, more like definition, you could just go to their documentation and just these are like a config, like acceptable config that you can pass. Basically just check, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And all of that. It should really have added like JS doc. So when I hover, I see the meaning, but bad. So yeah, so it's like the config. I basically use, I mean, it works for me. There's some other ones that probably I haven't used before. I'll try them out just to see what it does. But yeah. And another one I always use, which is like the setup file. Setup file. So what this setup file does is it's not setup file. Setup file. Files. Yeah. Yeah, no type definition, string array. So what it does is before starting your test, right? You just check your setup file if you like have some mocks, right? Or maybe you mock a module, or you want to start your DB, and after every test is done, you want to clear your DB, stuff like that. You basically add into your setup file. Let me look for an example right here. I'm going to show an example. I think I have an example. Let me check for one. Set up. Just the setup. Okay. So this is like an example here. So in this project, I'm sending emails with Node Mailer, right? But when I'm running my test, I don't necessarily want to trigger emails, right? I mean, it's like it's a test. I don't want to like send emails. So I'm mocking my Node Mailer, right? And it's my setup test. This is my setup. This is my config, and I'm saying, okay, this is a setup file. When the application starts, just anywhere you come across Node Mailer for sending email, it's mocked. So it wouldn't send the actual email because I've mocked it. Many ways to do this. This is one way. You could also do a global mock. I mean, where this is another way right here where I just say, oh, when it's send email, when this is called, just mock this and just return this message ID and envelope. Just this is an example of me my mocking Slack, right? This is like a global mock, right? It's a test. I don't want you to send me Slack notifications for my test. Doesn't make any sense, right? I mean, so I'm just mocking the post messages, like sending messages like a Slack channel. So anywhere in my code where I'm calling Slack service to like send a message to the Slack channel, it does not, because I mean I've mocked it. So it's like global mock. And that way you could add it is the way I've added it in my setup test right here, where I just mock this. And when my test is starting, because I've defined this setup file, so just injects it and everything works fine. No message is sent, no email is sent out, which is good. So as an example, I don't know if we're gonna need it for this. I'm just gonna put it there and then I'm just gonna define it. Just what's the name? It set up TS, and it could be any name. Just not start with Jest, but I mean, for the name to make sense and to make like give meaning for anybody that is like reading your code. It makes sense just a setup file for my Jest. So probably I can rename it to anything I like, change it to anything. It just has to be like referenced correctly to the name has to match basically whatever I define here has to match what is here. So or what I've defined here basically. So what else? Okay, so I'm not going to define anything here because I don't need anything. I'm not marking anything. I'm not injecting anything when this is starting. So for a module, I'm just going to define folder. I'm going to say to do, and I'm going to define all the files to do the schema, the TS, to do the house service, the TS. I'm going to define a route. Sorry, I'm used to writing my code like this. Probably necessarily might not be the way you define or you write yours, but I'm sorry. It's still going to be the same thing at the end of the day. So, so I'm going to say what else? I need the controller. Controller schema. I need the interface. And I'm going to just group all the tests in here like this. And then I'm going to define. Even though I'm not going to be rationing anything, but I mean, I'm sorry, once more. I'm used to this. So I'm going to define the interface for to do application. Now what? I'm just going to copy it from somewhere. And I'm just going to do this. So it's like I said, I'm using MongoDB. I mean, so just probably don't need to worry about all of this if you don't use MongoDB. If you use SQLize or not SQLize, if you use SQL or SQL, use an ORM, Prisma, any other one. I mean, like I said, test part is probably still going to be same logic. Same thing you're probably going to have to test for, but I mean, the DB connection might just be different, right? So, sorry again if you don't use MongoDB. It's not your first choice, like database option. It's not mine also, but it's simple to use. So I just went with it. Okay, so I have this, and then I'm going to define my schema. Don't worry, I'm going to copy it to save time. Okay. So this is like a schema, database schema, and okay. So what else do we need? This is a schema. Then I'm going to go to the test, right? So what are the things we probably would test for this application? I mean, that's what TDD is about, right? You write your test, you write your code, and it will fail at first. Then you write the code to make it pass, and then you refactor. So, I mean, I don't always do that, but I mean, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So, I mean, I always make sure I write tests, even if I don't write the test first. But TDD says write your code, write your test, write your code, refactor, red, green, refactor. So I mean, sometimes I follow that, sometimes I don't. But I mean, a good practice I would say is at the end of the day, make sure your code is well tested. I think for the past 2 sessions we've discussed some of the importance of doing that and some of the advantages of doing that. So I would say at the end of the day, just make sure your code is at least 90% coverage, 95% coverage for your code. So I'm going to describe for create to do right now a test. I'm going to write a test for the route. So I'm going to do the route. So v1 to test TS. And I'm going to say first thing is to add describe block. No, you're writing my code for me. Do that. And I'm going to define this. Using this. This. No, don't do that. So what are the things that I probably should test? Okay, that's gonna be small. So I want to create a new to-do. I should test for validation, right? When creating a new to-do, probably yes. So I'm going to write a new describe block and say create to-do. And I'm going to do this, right? Equal to, I'm going to do this. And then my test scenarios is going to be test.to-do. So this test.to-do is saying what I have to do. So, I mean, there's some things you could do. Test.to-do, skip, if you don't want to like a test to run when you run your like script to start your test. There's a lot of things. So if you are instead of doing a for loop, let's say you have an array of test scenarios and you just want to like stop defining them like differently. I mean, they go together. It's like different scenarios, same test, different scenarios. You could just like a test for each. I mean, we'll check some of these things on just documentation after, but I'm just going to do a test to do. I'm just going to do this because it's like when you're adding your code, when you're adding like a to-do comment, so I need to do this. So I'm going to define the test scenarios with test to do, then write the test, then run it to make sure it fails, go to run my code, all of that. So I'm going to say should create new to do. This version is fine. And I'm going to add another one to test that to do. It should fail. Should return validation error. Let me see what is important. Schema completed is optional. Let me see our interface. Let me see. Completed is, I think completed should be optional because by default is there. It's updated that should be optional because we have a default value for it. And this should be also optional because we have a default value for all of these. And MongoDB, we just like any other DB, we just we have a default, title is required, description is required. Okay, awesome. So we can write our test for that. Should return validation error if required. Yeah, required fields. You see, this looks like a valid test case. What else can we test for when creating? Should create successfully. There should be an error. Okay, I think this covers it. What else when creating? I mean, if we were doing like relationships then, or roles and permissions, then we would have added more tests that, or if you don't have the permission to create a to-do, what should happen, things like that. So just writing for validation, but I mean, this is just a simple application. So let me see. So what could go wrong when we're creating? If everything is fine, it should work. If there's something wrong, it should be like this. Okay, that looks like good to go. I'm going to write. Nope, go away. And then I'm going to, this is where I would get to import our Supertest. So I'm going to write the syntax and then I'm going to explain as best as I can. I'm going to go into our Yeah. I'm going to import request from Supertest. Probably should just open up Supertest and just so super just to show what Supertest is. So it's very popular, right? Over 7 million weekly downloads. It's like the go-to for writing your tests, and it's really maintained. So that's some of the things I check for when I'm using the package. I'll popularize it. I'll maintain it. Yeah. So this is an example, right? We have this. This is the route, and then this is how you write your test, right? So you do request, you pass in the URL. This is like assertions. You should expect this, expect you to return it 200, and all of that. So you have like different ways. So I would say just use Supertest. It's really popular. It does the work well. If you pair it with Jest, that's your test runner, or vtest, you probably have all you need to test your API. So thank you. So I'm going to write the scenario for this. I'm just going to copy file documentation. I don't know this one. I'm talking about this. Okay, I'm not going to copy. I'm going to write it. So let's use our function. Okay, equals to the item equals to this. What are the things we need to make sure it passes? We need this is optional, so if we don't pass this in, our test should pass, right? Description and title looks like what we need, right? So I'm just going to copy description and title also. Okay. If we pass the remaining ones, it makes no difference because on our schema we said completed is what? Yeah, I mean by default required is false for MongoDB. So anytime we put required as true, that means it must be passed. So that goes for just description and title. So we're fine. If we just pass in description and title, every other thing that's like a default value. So this like this should work fine to the item. Then we could do requests, which we're importing from Supertest, which is like our test for running our tests. So what else do we need to do? So we'll pass in our application, which is our Express application from here, which is our Express application. We'll pass this in. Come on, stop. Yes, and then we'll say what is the URL? It's a GET request. What is our URL going to look like? So v1 slash API slash v1 slash to those. No, it's going to be a post request. It's what creating to do. Okay. So what else are we going to do? So this is it, right? So we could do async. We could do. That's always. I mean, you could do it if you are like a JavaScript engineer. You can do it, but then, right? And see like response, and that's adding your assertions. But I like async how it. So I'm just going to put async here, and then just do const response equals to. So what are the things? So this is like we're setting up our application. This is to do item, like doing it like we're doing it on Postman. Request is like our agent, right? Something like a Postman or Insomnia, whatever. And then we'll pass in our application. This is our URL. It's a post request. This is our URL, right? We've not defined it yet, so we're just writing our test to say, oh, okay, this is it. So what should it be? It should return. We should get a 201, right? So we can do expect response dot side things on state. Sorry, things you could like access on this response object. But what do we want? We want to do this expect response. But we want status, right? Dot to be 201, right? Because I mean HTTP status code, when you create something, you return it 201, and that's what our API would return, right? 201, right? The status code will be 201. Another thing we can do is, are we going to return like a message or like, so I mean, let's say this is what our API should return. Let's write it here. For this to do, we expect, for creating, we expect maybe something like this: data new to do, right? Let's think about this as our interface. I mean, you could also define it in your interface here as the response object, all of those things. I mean, that's fine. Your DTOs, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to put this here. I mean, in a normal application, you would add validations, add your response DTO, and all of those things. Yeah. This is what would return status as this, then we'll return a message. So this is basically what, yeah, and then we'll do success. True. Yeah. So something like this is what our This is what our response body would look like. So we've checked for our status, right? Then we can check the response body. What's it going to look like? But I mean, before we do that, let's try and run the test and see what would happen. Okay. Post. Okay. Let me just run the test. Package JSON. Do we have this? Oh yeah, we still have this echo. Okay. I'm going to copy the command for that. And it's just Jest, basically. It's just. So that's our test runner. We're using Jest as our test runner. I'm going to get a lot of errors, but npm test. Yeah. Okay. If you see we have our coverage, right? Coverage report for these all files to do the schema.ts. Come on. Okay, let me move this out. I got the wrong. Wait. Oh yeah, you ran out of test. So yeah. Okay, it's fine. Run it. Good. So this is the test we run. So this one we run because it's just a to-do test. This other one here wouldn't run because it's just like what I'm adding the comment that I need to do this. There's no test scenario. Same thing as skip. Changing to skip. It will just skip it. Wouldn't run it basically. What's this? Okay, yeah. If you do a skip, you have to do a second argument. I just want to show you this. Yeah, it will just skip it. Skipped. So this, I'll just do it to do. It's like a message to me that, oh, you need to implement this test. So this would not have it. This. Oh, no, don't do that for me. Okay, so what's the error? 404 not found, which is fine because we haven't even defined the route yet, right? So it expected a 201 response, but it got a 404, which is like route not found, right? Because I've not even defined this route at all. We don't have a route that looks like this, right? So if I change it to our out URL, the error would be different, and I would change it to get just to show that okay. Because we have that in our app here, we have this. and the response should be like 200. But if I run this, see, expected 201, got 200, because this is what we defined, right? That it should look like response status should be 200. We can also add some other assertions, basically. Use my test, and then I can see my coverage reports, right? So, what has respond the status? Okay, secondary is also the respect. Yes, response dot body. Which is the body of my response, right? Dot to equal onto the equal. What should be tiers status okay message server is LV. Back to this. I can close it and have a typo ID. And it should be 200. Correct. So if I do this, it should pass. Yeah, it passed, because now we're like checking the URL that exists. We're checking the rest status code, and we're checking that this is what the response should be like. If I change this, it would fail, because that's not what our URL is returning. Yeah, and it sends tells us what is wrong. Like, this is what it should be, but this is what I got. So basically, yeah, I'm going to revert this to our to-dos URL. So what we'll do now is we'll okay, so this will define the code, we'll write the code, and we would what's it called? Come back to our test and see that everything is passing. Right. So I would go to my service and I would define the class. Sorry, I'm just used to this. So the service, and no, I'm not thinking of that. And I'm going to import our. Let me just copy the code, something that looks like that, and just capture. Create to do. Okay, I'm just going to check this here, and I'm going to import this from our schema, and I'm going to copy this right here, and it's going to be public as in create to do, and it's this, and it returns a to-do document, which is this. Yeah, and I'm going to export you. So I'm going to export this class. So we have our service, the connects to our database and just basically creates our to do. Yeah, so this is like a basic implementation of our create to do. I mean, in real application, you probably do, I mean, more error handling and all of those things, but yeah. And then I'm just trying to keep it as simple as possible and as fast as possible. I'm also going to define the controller. So define the controller, and I'm going to inject the service into it. So by doing this. So the service. It's called to do, and it should be packaged. Please, if you have any question whatsoever, you could go ahead and ask. Yeah. I mean, this doesn't necessarily have the way you write your code, but like I said, I'm used to this. Like a sync, for it to do, and it's going to be a spelling request. Just going to be request from Express. And to come on. I'm going to import request and response from Express. Stop. And I'm going to do response, which is response. And just going to do a try and catch. And just going to do this. Okay. And success. And yeah, awesome. And then this is going to be, yeah, thank you. I can accept that. Let me see. Yes. So let's see whatever they said. I'm supposed to expecting 201. I'm also expecting some things in the body. So and I've not passed in the body, but what happened? So call our service, return a response, and then return the newly created to do with this, and would also return a message. To create. So awesome. So now we wrote our test, now we've written our service. I mean, we could just put everything in the route, basically, like just put everything in the route, and I mean, it's fine. So then I'm going to define the route just like we've written in our test. It's going to be API/v1/to-do, and it's going to be a post request. So over here, I'm going to say import. Have this house into the DI dependency injection, and we have this. Okay, we have this, we have this, we have this, and then I'm going to export out. That is going to be post request. It's going to be this, like this, and it's going to be that. It's going to be to this control. And default. So there's v1. Okay, sorry. It's a default export. And in our app dot here, we can just basically just app dot use /API/v1/to-do, and to do because just imported to-dos v1 round 2 from Node.js okay, yeah, correct. Models /to-do/ yeah. So we have this, and we'll just put this in here. Awesome. So we have this right here. We find our route, done our service. There's something missing in our test. When we do a post, we're supposed to pass in body. So let me check the documentation. The post.send. Okay, that's it. The send, what are we sending? So do I think that's the body. Okay, we set headers and we don't need to do that. Okay, we'll pass in our body. This is our to-do item. This is this. We're expecting this. And we can add more assertions, right? We can say expect response the body that's to be equal. We can do this equal, right? So equal into what should we expect? We should expect data. Yeah, this is let's make it fail. We should expect message success. Okay. Yep. I mean, I don't want to define everything, but yeah, that works. So if I come, I don't need this anymore. I don't need this. I don't need this. I need this. I need my controller. So when we make the API call, this is what we expect. This. What else can we do? What's this? Okay. We're gonna run our test now, and it's going to fail. Oh, okay, you passed. Cool. Okay. Okay. So we have some errors here. So oh yeah, we made it pass. Okay. Yeah, we defined everything. Okay, I'm going to remove this. It's fine. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to try to fix the errors. Also. Okay. Yep. So we have these. So there's a timeout error, right? So there's something when you're writing your test with your database, basically, or with long running process, mostly with database, right? For instance, I'll use a database, for instance. After each, there's something we call tear down and setup, right? So after every test, you should before every test, you start your database, and after every test, you should close your DB connection, so it won't just like stay idle and like be long running. So that's one of the things this is complaining about right here. Our database is not properly short, so after the test is done, there should be a cleanup. Basically, yeah, that's the right word. There should be a cleanup of like the database. If not, it'll just be like continuously running. And that's for every database you use, whatever database you use, MongoDB, NoSQL, whatever database you use. After every test, you need to do a cleanup. That's close your database connection, and it's not going to affect your main database or your main connection. It's just going to be for this one. I'm going to show an example. I'm going to fix this right now, and I'm going to show an example of another database, SQLite, of like doing the same thing. So I mean, there's a default timeout that Jest has put 5,000 and whatever. And I mean, you can always also increase the timeout, which is not like a good practice, right? It's not a good practice. So it's always best when you open a database connection. I mean, even for NoSQL database, there's like a connection pool, right? You don't just want your pool to keep increasing because you're running your test. You always want to shut down. Like one is no longer in use, you create a connection pool, you're done. You always want to shut it down, right? So same thing for this one. So I'm just going to copy. What's this? Where are you? Okay, so that's why I installed this package, which is what's it called? This Mongo memory server. We'll create and we'll connect here. And after every test is done in this test suite, this particular one, we're going to just disconnect, and that should fix it. That should fix this timeout right here. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Okay, awesome. Yeah, so that error is gone because now I'm managing our database connection properly. Before your test is run, you create your MongoDB connection. When your test is done, when everything is done running, you need to stop your connection just to manage your connection pool and not just leave long running process running without stopping. So it's always like best practice to do this. If not, you would have like memory leaks. Not necessarily in your application, but in your test, right? So I mean, it's always good to do that. So what else? And then we have an error, which is to be expected, right? Because I'm saying our response should equal this message success, but we're missing our data, right? Because in our controller, this is it. When it's successful, we're returning 201, which is corrected, which is this. And in our response body, we're returning message, success, and data, which is the newly created to do. So that's failing. And when you look at that, when you look at the coverage on our controller, it's saying this is not covered, right? Our service is fine, everything's covered. Our controller is 83.3%. Just because of this one minor thing that our assertion is wrong, it's not complete. So once we fix this, everything should be fine. So I'm just going to do expect. No, sorry, data. Expect. Do I want to do everything? Okay, I'm not going to. Yeah, this dot n. Yeah, I mean this. I don't want to type out all of these. I'll just say it should be an object, right? Expect that it should expect any object. I mean, you could have fixtures where you've defined what it would return and just pass it in, but I mean, I'll just take the easy route, right? And it's always good practice to define what it's going to look like. So yeah, so it's passing, all good. We still have this coverage here, and when we come here, we've covered the happy parts, right? When you try to create, everything works fine, right? Parts we've not covered is pointing to the line to us, uncovered lines, line 12, right here. So we've not tested our error like flow. So for now, we've covered our try block. When you pass in the correct values, everything is fine, everything looks good, right? It works fine. And it's saying, oh, you've not covered this line, uncovered lines. That's if it's more than one line, it will show you, okay, say, what can I do to make this bigger? Sequence error equals to message. See what to see. Okay, awesome. And then add the message. It would increase, I think, to 12 to 13 line 12 to 13 that it hasn't been covered. So let's check that out. See, it says line 12 to 13 has not been covered because now everything in my cat block, I haven't written a test for it in my cat block. So that's one of the reasons why I like to add coverage. And then it was 83 point something before, but now it's like 71 points because I have more lines that are not covered, right? So once we write the test for this one, we should be on 100 all true. So let's try that out. So let's write the test for this, which is bad. We should have written the test for this before we wrote our controller. But I mean, we know what we're missing. I'm just going to accept this. Oh, okay, so we're not passing anything to be 400. Message this is wrong. It will be 500 and it's going to be oh yes, I don't know because I didn't write the validation. It seems to be a MongoDB error, but I mean, let's try it out. Yep. So a validation is passing. I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to run this. I want to write validations. Yeah. Okay. We're still missing line 12. Okay. Line 12, this. And I'm just going to right click on one error. I'm just going to keep it simple. 500. I don't want to. I mean, normal application, you would write for your routes. I mean, the big application, you write a validation just to check that the fields that are passed are the required fields, right? So you could also like try all of that. But, I mean, right now it's going to go into like MongoDB validation and all those long errors and all of that. That's why it's like error any string, because like a MongoDB error, right? So I'm just going to return a generic error that says our internet server error, and it's going to be a message. And success false. So we could also test that out to equal message. And it's going to be exactly this internal server error. And success is false. So I'm going to run the test. Yeah. So just like that, like everything is covered. My lines 100, like everything good and 100. So I mean, that's like the approach. Even though I didn't really follow TDD, right? I mean, I wrote my code. I wrote for the happy part, came back, wrote my code, wrote my test. I mean, so that's the whole idea, basically. So I mean, you could go on, and what for creative do you could do for get, you could do for what's it called, delete and all of that, and you could add more complexities, right, to it, right? Add validations, check that your validations work fine, and return good errors and all of that. Say for instance, tomorrow we want to add any complexity to this, or a new feature on top of create to do. We will define, we'll know that our previous implementation works fine. We'll add the test for the new implementation, and then we'll add the code. So I mean, it's fine. It's like a safety net for us. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to write the test and write the implementation for the other part of the code, and I'm going to push the GitHub repo and share in the group. So everybody, and then I have for the front end also, I'm going to do the same thing. I have it like a demo project for the front end. I'm going to just do that also, push the GitHub repo and share in the group. And anybody that feels like or wants to just go through it, and if they have questions, I mean, I'm happy to also help answer. Or if you have a project and you're having issues with tests, you could just drop it in the chat also in the group, and we could just check together. Just yeah. Okay, I'm going to finish this up and push up to GitHub, share the GitHub repo, and yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Wilson. I think we don't have any questions for now, but I think this is very good that we can access on on GitHub, and then maybe they will ask some questions later, or if they are building their projects, they can contact you, which is also awesome. So thank you also for this. I don't know, does anyone has any question? Maybe would like to say something, or maybe some suggestions? You can also unmute. Thank you, Alexandra. If you want, you can also unmute and talk. Otherwise, please send your questions on Slack, and I wish you all a good night, and see you soon. Thank you once again to everyone who joined. Wilson, thank you so much. Turdugo, thank you. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Jackie, for joining. Thank you, Monica. Okay. See you soon.
See you soon. See you next week. Thank you
Thank-
all to joining.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Let me see. Okay. I have I just removed. She is probably not there.
Yeah. Can you stop the recording?
Yes. Thank you.
Please.
I have